Hello, this is Captain W.B. Robertson, and this is Admin Briefing number 3. The date is 1 September 1988, or AD 38. The title of this briefing is Your Bridge. Admin Briefing number 1 was about the bridge here at Ronzor. Admin Briefing number 2 was about false bridges that you might be exposed to. And this is Admin Briefing number 3 about your bridge. You are a logical being and interested in improvement, or you wouldn't be listening to this tape. Or perhaps you couldn't listen to this tape if you were suppressed or other determined enough to be below the need of change, hope, and help awareness levels. In other tapes, we have looked up the bridge to see what's next. Now in this tape, let's look down on it from the top. If you are logical enough, you can do it. So let's begin. Ron said that life is basically a game. I stated in Admin Briefing number 1 that it could be seen as a series of games. Now I can even say that the series of games extends as far back as you are willing to confront, and that most of them you and others agreed to play. But some of them were covertly and secretly put into the existing agreed-upon games, and these are the reason for much of the misery and suffering and other determinism in this one, and in most of the other games you agreed to play. And I can say that the overall game you are playing now has a lot of players in it. At least a number as big as 10 with 40 zeros behind it. That's a big game. And when it gets suppressed or goes wrong, there can be big trouble. You could even say that the solidity and persistence and mystery of this game and the playing field and the creations upon the playing field, which we call the meshed universe, is a measure of the unconfronted suppression and complexity and the incomplete cycles by the players in the game. Now I ask you, are you or have you ever been a player in this game? The answer is yes, if you are listening to this tape. And does it seem complex with lots of incomplete cycles, interbulation and suppression and secret goings-on? Yes, it does, if you care to inspect the dynamics of life in this game. Let's take the first dynamic. Do you have all the havingness you really desire in the game today? And can you easily get what you want if you don't have it? Think about that. On the second dynamic, does it seem there's a real scarcity of second dynamic ideal scenes in this game? Consult your own experience and that of others for the answer. Take the third dynamic. Do you see any groups betraying their members or others and working for suppressive, secret, and evil purposes in the game today? Did you ever see anything like that? Let's take the fourth dynamic. Are there some players in the game of life who don't even have enough to eat and are subject to disease, famine, and war? Or just being killed accidentally or by mistake? On the fifth dynamic, do you hear of species of animal life becoming extinct or endangered, and forests of trees being destroyed, all affecting the chain of food supply and ecological balance of this planet. On the sixth dynamic, have you read of pollution and climatic changes in the Earth's atmosphere due to depletion of the ozone layer and loading up the air and water with poisonous waste products? On the seventh dynamic, have you experienced strange pressures, headaches, illnesses, which medical science can't handle? And have you seen other people depressed or out of their mind with pain and craziness from drug effects and incurable illnesses? Let's take the eighth dynamic. Have you read of or seen the fighting and killing going on in the name of religion? In Ireland, the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Far East, the Persian Gulf, to name a few. Or the bigoted other-determined and other-determinism practiced by those who claim to have a calm line to God. On the ninth dynamic, have you heard any modern music recently, or seen modern painting, or even modern sculpture? Does it look or sound confused? Are all people making their cities and communities pleasing to the eye and artistic? Or is there garbage and trash and decay in the living environment? On the 10th dynamic, is anyone trying to make a fast buck with no delivery of a quality product or service in your area? Ever hear of any scandals or rip-offs in government or business circles? Any news of innocent people being killed or persecuted just for being there? Any news of poisoning the environment in which we all live? Well, those would be examples of what's going wrong on the 10th dynamic, the ethics dynamic. Now let's take the 11th dynamic. Have you seen any advertisements for a quick way to OT in just a few days? Have you seen any tech groups go out of business or have to rip off their public and make war on dissenters? Well, that's the technical dynamic, and it certainly needs some correction. Let's take the 12th dynamic. Do you have the feeling there is really no policy or ideal scene for this planet? And that many actions are later found to be full of false, omitted, or wrongly included data, or especially altered importances? But anyway, that there is a lot of paperwork and admin to do anyway just to survive, and that the exchange agreement of money is somehow variable and false and inflating all the time? You ever notice that? And do you see a lot of false datums in the society? All this comes from the 12th dynamic of admin, of games. And when admin is out, those conditions will prevail. Well, it's not all bad. There are many players trying to improve on one or more of those 12 dynamics. And there are areas where the agreed-upon game is still bringing order and sanity to the universe. And there are more frequent glimpses of sanity or logic in today's events. There is help and ARC and even some KRC being applied, but not enough. The viewpoint which you are now looking at, if you have followed with me so far, is the viewpoint of the 13th dynamic, games, their analysis and handling. This is a point which begins the OT application of logic to improve the game as it exists and make it more viable. That means able to be full of life, fun, wins, and acceptances for yourself and others as players. Now, what has to be handled on these dynamics to make them more viable and to bring them towards an ideal scene for each player? Well, what has to be handled is called case. And you could also look at it as misapplication or no application of pure theta logic in the game. In a word, what we are dealing with is illogic. A thetan is basically logical, if you want to say what is his highest quality. In fact, all auditing restores logic to the thetan. And, of course, all games, again, per LRH, are aberrative. We could say all games are somehow a bit illogical. But Ron also says some are fun. And those are the ones you agreed to play. Just take this view for a moment. Here we have an immortal, logical being, a thetan, with the potential of anything, as per axiom 1 and 2. What can you keep him interested in forever? What can you keep him interested in which will span immortality, which is, of course, always was, always is, and always will be there? Or if you see it individually, always will be here. Work it out. It's simple. A thetan has the quality of logic. He would have fun applying it. What can you apply logic to? You can apply it to illogic, the resolution of illogic. Therefore, we have games. And it's fun to apply the logic to their resolution. That's what fun is. But it's not just one game or a game with one player. No, that's only a start. You can't cover forever and infinity with that. It has to be an infinite possibility of games, from simple, gradiently through more complex. Hence, this one existing now. It is very complex, and interference in its agreements have produced a regression and forgetfulness in most of the players. Yes, a real forgetfulness. Most of them have forgotten their rights, that's the rights of a thetan, their dynamics, which we were talking about before, and their hope and their ability to play. Their attention gets stuck on past, smaller, less complex games and the wins they had there. Or another already played game is tried to be played over again, while not ising or not confronting the one that is here, because it has too many unconfrontables in it. Or a false game is thought to be the real one, usually gratefully supplied by the implanters, who try to make the logical player into a piece or a broken piece of illogic or a piece of mess. Enough of examples. I'm sure you can see many, many more. The question is, do you want a bridge out of this illogical mess toward more viable games for yourself and all your other dynamics? And for others as well. Remember, the game is this complex because the simpler ones were already done. Therefore, you must have been ready for this one, or you wouldn't have gotten into it. So let's take this big viewpoint so we can all play better and more viable games. Have you still the ability to help another and want to really know how to do so? Or will you let someone else put a future there, which is really a past, an old, unsuccessful game? Will you let them put that on your track to really confuse you further? Well, there is no future other than what we put there. And the only way to put an improved, more viable future there is to know about all the past game scenes and the past game complexities and the past game handlings, all the important ones. And not only know about them, but to evaluate them with and in comparison to the existing scene, and then move the vectors toward viability. Otherwise, the existing scene could worsen, and it will do so if one does not confront the complexities, suppressions, and incomplete cycles of his own and others' games. And that would lead into a dwindling spiral of no fun. Games are supposed to be fun. The ones you agreed to play are and were fun. Everybody can win. And this is what the bridge at Ronsorg is all about. It's a bridge for you. You know, for you to be in a game this complex, you must have been ready for it and agreed to it. So you should be really cooking on all 12 dynamics in this game and moving them easily to ideal scenes for your own havingness, fun, wins, and application and appreciation of the rights of a Thetan. And that includes to make or choose or not make or not choose your own game to play. That is a right of each Thetan. And of course you do also have the right to go OT, or to experience out-of-the-game states above the 12th and 13th dynamics, which we call the source level states. And you do have the ability to apply what you learn there to improvement of all games. There are plenty of possibilities left. We haven't run out of infinity yet. So, if you aren't cooking on all 12 game dynamics and aware of and can easily experience the higher ones when you wish, the bridge is here for you. It is a game in itself, a game of undoing and as-ising bad games and improving and making games more viable. Now you might say, is that all? Totally all there is to it? You mean it's just a bunch of immortals playing an infinite amount of games? And now we're stuck somewhere in the middle of the infinity of possibilities? And all this stuff around was created by us immortals to experience illogic and analyze and handle it? And some went against the agreements and suppressed the fun out of it? And now I don't want to be here, but I can't not be here because an immortal always was, is, and will be here? And all the other stuff you hear about, philosophy, theologies, cosmologies, etc., is mostly bullshit? Or some recalls of past games already played and forced down everyone's throat? Is that the way it really is? It sounds too simple, too logical. Well, my answer to that is yes, it is. And someone might ask, also, you mean I can get to the leading edge of application of logic to making new, more viable games just by going up the bridge and handling my game's track and incomplete cycles of freeing and as-ising on the dynamics and restoring my ideal scenes and purposes? Well, yes, you can. And someone else might say, you guys in Ron's org are really there to help? Not just a con, a betrayal, a ripoff? You really believe you can make a better, more viable game and handle all those dynamic situations? You really are trying to make a new civilization and restore the rights of Thetans? Well, yes, we are. And if I might give a little thanks here, we can only do it because we were started off and given the basics by one great games master. And here is a short poem in honor of him. Thanks to the first games master who showed the way, whose name in eternity stands as Elron El Rey. That's the end of admin briefing number 3 about your bridge. Thank you very much.